So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and I'm going to inspect every one of my tires. A very black crack right here. So if this was open, what I'd want to do is make sure that my hood is closed and everything seems to line up. Hello everybody, it's Steve again, and what we're going to be doing is looking at the car that we're about to drive as if we're going to take a short or long trip in it. That trip could be 200 miles or it could be to the end of the driveway. In any case, before we move the car, there's some safety checks that we want to do to make sure that we know what we're getting into, what the status of our equipment is, and not proceed out of our driveway with some kind of a brewing problem or a significant problem. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and I'm going to inspect every one of my tires. Now I've got another camera here, okay, and then I'm going to go to the front tire and I'm going to do the same thing. As I start to walk around this car, one of the things I should be noticing is what is the status of other equipment that might be around it. Now again, I'm checking the tires right now. I want to check each one and make sure that each one is properly inflated. Now, one of the questions that a lot of people will ask is, suppose one of the tires is somewhat underinflated. How would you know how much air pressure to put into it? Do you have to take the car back to the dealer? And the answer to that is no, you don't. There's the information for the required tire pressure for each one of these tires, front and rears, is actually located on the inside of the driver's side door. You open it up and then you look down here. At this point, you will see the information that's available to you. Anyway, what it's doing is it's tire and loading information. It's giving us seating capacity. Tells that it's a total of 5, 2 in the front, 3 in the rear. That's for people. And then it tells you the size tires that you should have, including the spare tire. And it also tells you what the pressure should be in each one of those tires. And it says cold pressure. That means that it's not, you just came off a long trip and the tire's nice and hot. That's not the pressure that it should be. It would be higher than. So if you're going to fill your tires and they were at basically room temperature, that's what you would want to fill it to. It's 33 pounds front and rear. And then if you're going to inflate your spare, it would be 60 pounds per square inch. And if I did have one of my tires that was low in air pressure, then what I would want to make sure is a high priority would be to go to some place where I could get my air pressure up to where it's supposed to be. If they're underinflated, is the bottom part of the tire down here is actually squished down a little bit. Well, that squishing takes place because of the weight of the car. With a very low air pressure tire over a long duration trip, it's very easy to have the tire wall heat up to the point where it'll catastrophically fail. In 2016 in Florida, 6 people out of 8 were killed in a van that had a low air pressure tire, and it catastrophically failed. The vehicle rolled over and 2 children and 4 adults lost their lives. So that's another reason why you want to check your various status of your tires. One of the things I'm looking for is I'm looking for things that might be in the way of the car. So if they are, what I want to do is get them out of the way. If I don't walk around my car and I don't look at the back and there's a child on a bicycle back there, then what can happen is I can do what some parents have done, and I don't ever want to do that, and I wish that it never happens to you. But if you back out of your driveway with your child behind your car and you roll over them and kill them, you never get to undo that. Just remember there's no do-over button in your car. So it's vitally important that you check the clearances around your car, even to the point where you actually look underneath your car, because when you're looking for cats or other animals that might be under there, that's the first and most important thing to do on your car if you're going to take a trip. And like I said, I consider a trip to be to the end of the driveway, because just as much could happen here, in fact, sometimes even more, than if you go on a 200-mile trip. Every one of the vehicle's doors has a properly closed position on it. For instance, if this door is open and I open it up and then I don't get it quite closed, it won't fly open, but it'll also, it could be, it's just a mark away from flying open. And you'll notice that there's a very black crack right here. So if this was open, one of the things you'd want to do is open it all the way. Now, another safety feature that's located on each one of these cars is safety feature associated with small kids. If you have small children and they're in the back seat, now obviously they're going to be hopefully strapped into their seat belts or in their car seats or whatever they're, depending on their age, what they should have. But one of the things that can happen is kids are curious about things. If somehow they were roaming around and you didn't know it in the back seat, then one of the things that might happen is that they could open the door from the inside while the car is moving. Well, you don't want that to happen. So on virtually all cars today now, you have the capability of taking that away from the passengers in the back seat. And there's a little lever right here, and it says lock. And you just flip it over, and then now the door handle cannot be operated from the inside. It can still be operated from the outside, so if you want to open the car door. But if you were in here, the door handle no longer works. That's a really nice safety feature. But don't forget if it's on or off, and it's on both of your back doors. The next thing that you'd want to make sure is that the trunk of your car is properly closed. If you don't close it all the way, it's locked down, but it's not closed. So what we want to do is release it and slam it shut. Now that noise you hear there is just simply a license plate that's loose on the bottom. The next thing, gas fill cap. Very often, after people have filled their cars, they forget to close their gas fill cap. Now it's not super dangerous, but what it does is that gas fill cap, when it's closed, prevents anybody from opening up your gas cap and perhaps maybe siphon some of your fuel out, which is rather expensive today. So you'd always want to make sure that that was closed. The other thing you want to look at is what is the condition of the hood. The hood of the car, the front, this part right here, is literally going to be accessed, and later on we're going to do a separate thing about what's inside of there and what you should be looking at. But one of the things I always want to do is make sure that my hood is properly closed. There's actually a space underneath here. And again, that car, if you're driving down the road, have a tendency to lift. And if it lifted while you were driving, that could be very bad. If it did, it might fly right over the top of your windshield. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at right now. And what I'd want to do is make sure that my hood is closed and everything seems to line up. Now, we've gone over a lot of stuff as far as what you should check on the car, and it seems like it took a long time. And that's the reason I did it that way, is I want to make sure that I point to the things that you should be concerned about. If you don't know what normal looks like on your car, then you won't recognize abnormal, and that could be a problem. The safety check that I do when I do my car takes no more than about 10 to 12 seconds, where I walk around the car, check, look at the tires, and when there's nothing wrong, and there's no kids back there or whatever, then I don't have a problem. And I know that when I drive out, the only thing that I've got to worry about is whatever may have appeared as I started to move the car. So please understand that this is not meant to be especially if it's raining, you don't want to be doing this where it takes 5 or 6 minutes to do. You could get pretty wet. So please take the time to inspect your car, because again, you need to know what the condition of your vehicle is that you're going to drive before you drive it. And as I said before, you do not get do-overs. When you literally have a crash or whatever, you're stuck with the results. So if it's a result of a tire being under-pressurized or a door not being properly closed, and that could have been avoided in the driveway, then take the time to do it.